Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As we wait for other people to come, I would like to welcome us all to today's event. This is Legal Digest Forum International, and we are having an ADR event, an ADR meeting conference on different issues. Yesterday, we had on ADR in relations to ADR in relation with ethnic and cultural issues. And then today we'll be learning on ADR practice. I would like to welcome us all to today's event. My name is Ebuka Atusuba, and I am your anchor for today. Today we have a very interesting topic, and we have a very well-rounded speaker. The speaker for today, the first time I heard from her in relations to ADR, we went to the same school, but the first time I heard from her in relations to ADR was last 2 years when she gave us a talk during our own ADR training. And so I'm very excited to hear what she has for us today. As we wait for more participants, I would also like to welcome the president of Legal Digest Forum, Ezeadili Chiugo. I would like to welcome Chiugo. She's the one that's Mrs. Chiugo is the one that's going to take us on the topic today. We'll choose the president to talk about the topic before she starts. So at this point, without wasting much of our time, because we intend that this will only take 1 hour so that we can go about the rest of our day. But before I call on the president, I also like to thank everybody that was able to make it yesterday. We will all agree that we had a very wonderful event yesterday. We learned from Mr. Krishna, and it was an amazing time, because he was able to take us on a topic that we are finding very relevant today, and that is a topic on ADR and how it affects cultural and ethnic conflicts. And we are seeing what is happening in Israel and Gaza, what is happening in America in relation to Please, when we come in, let's try and make sure that we mute ourselves, because I don't want to be muting everybody one by one. So let's just mute ourselves so that we will not disturb that when the person is speaking. And then if you are able to also off your video, just so that they'll be able to hear one person while you are speaking, the more the camera away from the person that is actually speaking. So please, you can off your video, off your audio until you want to ask questions. I think that would be very nice. Thank you very much. So I was talking about how the person that spoke to us yesterday informed us of why it is important that we have ADR, especially mediation, in relation to these ethnic conflicts and religious conflicts. I would really like that we off our videos and our audios until we want to ask questions. If you do not know how to, off the video, you can just send me a personal message, and I also send a personal message on how to off it. Thank you very much. So at this point, I would like to invite the president of okay, he's not here now, so I'll just continue on to be able to join the meeting. I hope everyone can hear me. I hope we can hear me. Somebody should just unmute themselves and so that I'll be able to.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
But is the meeting actually starting by 10 a.m.?
Yes, this is the meeting that started. We are just waiting for the president to give his opening remarks so that the speaker can start.
Okay, thank you so much, Ebuka. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And please, good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's session of the ADR conference. I sincerely appreciate everyone for finding time to be here. So please, we want today to be a little bit different. Immediately you come online, please endeavor to announce appearance. Endeavor to introduce yourself, your name, your school, probably, or your workplace, so you'll be able to know who stepped in, and then to be able to take record of all those who participated. So I'd like Ebuka to also send a message on the chat. So anybody that comes in get to see the notification about stating your name, your institution, or the place where you are communicating us from, so that we'll be able to take note of those who have participated in this very convention. So as a way of starting, yesterday was such a moment, and I believe that we learned very important lessons. Our speaker focused on mediation as a powerful tool to solve wars, raging ethno and religious crises. He highlighted the various countries that have been torn apart by ethnic and religious conflict, and how the pursuit of peaceful resolution brought it to an end. Now, popular among them is the remarkable act of Nelson Mandela after he left the Robben Island, after he left imprisonment for over 2 decades. Now, when he left the prison, he left behind his hurt, he left behind his displeasure, and came out with the spirit of mediation, and that brought to the end of apartheid in South Africa. So I sincerely appreciate the effort of our speaker yesterday. At the time he spoke to us yesterday, it was about 11:30 p.m. in India, whereas it was 7 o'clock p.m. in Nigeria. So he had to find time to speak to us even at that late hour because of his fatherly love for us, because he wanted to pass on this banner, this baton of ADR to a young and future generation of ADR specialists to become mediators, to become arbitrators, to become negotiators, and to find ways to resolve the raging conflict that the world is facing presently. So I thank everyone for making our time to be here. Now, today we will have an even more interesting session. Hope you can hear me. Today we will have an even more interesting session with our guest speaker, who is also going to speak to us, Barrister Mrs. Chiugo Ezeadili, who is going to speak to us. She's a young lady I respect so much for her dedication to duty, for her commitment to excellence, and devotion to the cause of humanity. Over the years, she has invested her time and effort at training both old and young men and women in the rudiments of arbitration, mediation, conciliation, and then under the banner of Negotiation Powerhouse, where she has also risen to become the course director of the Negotiation Powerhouse and the programs that they run. So today she's going to speak to us from a vast experience, from vast knowledge of hers in ADR processes. So we sincerely appreciate her presence. And thank her for making herself available to speak to us this morning. So I'll call her to the visual state immediately to come and take over. But before she does that, remember, we are sharing a slide. She's going to make a slide presentation. When these slides are shared, endeavor to go through them, endeavor to listen to what she has to tell us. Get your writing pen, get your pad beside you, and try to take down very salient information, because I believe that we can't leave this very annual conference of LIFIN without getting one or two things that are very interesting, that will impact us in our careers, and that will help us to grow, that will help us to become better mediators, and then negotiators in future. Thank you very much for giving me a chance. Thank you for coming here. I would engage us immediately after her presentation to get our feedbacks, to get our reaction to her presentation. And one more thing, if you have questions at the comment section, do try to drop your questions. We lift it from there and then present to us.
Hello. Oh, okay. I do not know what happened to Chibeze there, but please, I would like to say that before the speaker comes up, please let's try as much as possible not to interrupt the speaker. So what we can do is just turn off your audio. If you want your video to be on, I feel like you can just turn off your audio and your video together, because we'll be sharing a slide. And that slide will require us to also see the speaker. So as much as we share the slide, you also see the speaker. And to be very important that we are able to see only the speaker and the slide. Okay, so thank you very much. Now I'd like to call Mrs. Chiugo to the video stage so that she can start her presentation.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, ma.
Good morning. My name is Mrs. Chiugo Ezeadili. I believe we all can hear me.
Yes, we can.
You can.
All right, thank you so much. I first want to appreciate LIFIN for this opportunity to be sharing something I'm so passionate about. And today I'll be sharing with you or discussing the topic, building a thriving arbitration practice, the skills and strategies towards career success in dispute resolution. As we all know, from time immemorial, we've been used to litigation as a form of settlement dispute. And this has resulted in win-lose situations between parties. Most parties go to court when they're returning. They feel they are being deprived of what they're expecting. The expectations come short. And as a result of this, we realize that more time is consumed, litigation is not cost effective, and the relationship between parties depletes at the point of them coming to the table of litigation. This resulted in the need to create an avenue where which parties will be able to settle out of court, still maintain that very good relationship, and thrive on and foster better relationships between parties. Now, this brought about arbitration. At first, when arbitration and other ADR avenues came into existence, it was quite difficult to accept. And even the courts were not forthcoming in linking up or agreeing or accepting arbitration clauses that were inserted in agreements that were given. But over time, with cases like Frontier Oil Limited and Near Apple Oil Nigeria Limited, we realized that the courts were forthcoming with respect to arbitration and alternative dispute resolution. So this will lead me to my first slide. I'll be talking about ADR and the hybrid processes. Now please can we kindly mute
Pastor,
our mic?
never go.
Can we kindly mute our mic? Okay, now I'll be talking about ADR and the hybrid processes. ADR is usually referred to as alternative dispute resolution, African dispute resolution, amicable dispute resolution, whichever name you decide to call it. What it entails is it covers a wide range of alternatives to litigation, which involves third parties intervening to assist in the resolution of disputes. That is, exploring options as against or as opposed to litigation, and it would involve the intervention of a third party to see to it that disputes are resolved. Now, arbitration is also referred to as an alternative to dispute resolution. The reason being it was the first alternative to dispute resolution. Now we have other alternative dispute resolution and mechanisms. You have conciliation, you have mediation, we have negotiation, we have expert determination, neutral evaluation, and a lot of others. First of all, we'll take a look at arbitration. Now we have the definition of arbitration under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, Section 57, Sub 1. Arbitration has been defined as a dispute resolution process applied strictly to commercial disputes, whether or not is administered by a permanent arbitral institution. And it has also been defined by Dr. Benodo as a dispute resolution process by which parties in a commercial dispute seek intervention of a third-party neutral, who is referred to as the arbitrator. The arbitrator is there to investigate the matter. He's also there to hear what parties have to say. He's there to determine what has been heard, and thereafter give a binding decision in assessing damages. Now, this is for arbitration. Arbitration is usually most likened to litigation because it's almost as rigid as litigation. There are laws guiding it, there are rules binding the parties and even the arbitrator, but it is said to be one of the processes by which disputes are resolved outside litigation. Now, I want us to look at the different forms of ADR as well. Let's move to the next slide. Now we have judicial appraisal, we have high-low arbitration, we have adjudication, we have expert determination, we have the ombudsman, ADMED, MEDAP. You also have mediation, the executive tribunal, the neutral fact finder, the early neutral evaluation, and conciliation. All of these are variant ADR processes that ADR specialists apply depending on the peculiarity of the case before the ADR specialist. Now, I will just pick a few and speak on so we can move quickly due to time constraints. Now, for mediation, we know mediation is not binding, and we also know that it is presided by a third party who is known as the mediator. The mediator simply is there to guide, to assist parties to reach an agreement, to reach a conclusion, to reach a resolution with regard to the dispute that has arisen. We have negotiation. Negotiation is actually talks between parties to a dispute. Although in some instances you might be privileged to see a third party involved in negotiation. But basically in negotiation, parties are the ones who are actively involved. The negotiator just acts as a guide as well, whereas the parties are the ones actively involved, and they see to it that they reach a compromise and parties go back with a win-win situation. Now we have the expert determination. When a dispute arises, you can involve an expert in that field from which the dispute has arisen to look into the dispute and reach a determination as a result of his expertise in that field. Now that determination would come as a decision before the parties from the dispute which has arisen. Another one I'll talk about is the ombudsman. Now in various parastatals across the country, we have the ombudsman, the Public Complaints Commission. Now they see to it that when a complaint arises, it is forwarded to their office and they look into their complaint, they look into their dispute and come up with a resolution. They invite parties that are involved in the dispute and help parties reach an amicable decision. We have the ADMED and MEDAP. So ADMED is also called arbitration mediation. For arbitration mediation, You give parties the option to explore arbitration and then the option to explore mediation and choose which decision to abide by. If parties explore arbitration, they can decide to keep the decision. They can decide to keep the decision of the arbitrator and subsequently move forward to the table of mediation. Once they are done with mediation, if they accept the decision of mediation, then they can do away with that of arbitration. So for mediation arbitration, parties go to the table of mediation. Decisions that were not reached on certain aspects of the dispute would then be forwarded to arbitration. And at the table of arbitration, they are all resolved. Let's kindly move to the next slide. Why ADR? Why ADR of cultivating effective communication and interpersonal skills? It helps you exercise patience, tolerance, it promotes dialogue, it helps you accommodate the other party, it saves time, it's cost effective, it ends in a win-win situation between parties. It gives parties access to justice, it helps foster business relationships, it restores pre-dispute relationships, increases foreign investment, and speedy resolution of disputes. Now, I want to speak on the increase in foreign investment, especially as regards our country, Nigeria. We know that Nigeria is filled with foreign investors. We have investors who come in with the intention of wanting to be actively involved in businesses here in the country. And this has resulted in them entering contracts with clauses infused into that contract to see to it that when disputes arise, it's either it's subjected to arbitration or any of the ADR options that are available. This has helped a lot of businesses because we know that for litigation, you spend up to 5-10 years trying to resolve a dispute. But with ADR or arbitration or any of the options you have, you can save time, you can save costs, and still maintain that business relationship and that foreign investment that we enjoy here in the country. So I introduce all of this for us to understand and appreciate the importance of ADR in the country at this point in time. Now let us move to the topic, our main topic for which we're here to discuss. Let's move to the next slide. The skills and strategies towards career success in dispute resolution. Now, to effectively succeed in the practice of dispute resolution, an ADR specialist needs the requisite skills and strategies which would assist him for better practice in the field. Now, most of these skills are inbuilt, and those that are inbuilt end up being found into place through training and continuous practice. I want us to understand that dispute resolution cuts across every sphere of life. In your home, in marriages, in your church, in your school, wherever you find yourself, there is always a dispute that would arise. And naturally, most of us are dispute resolution specialists. But there are some skills that you have to get in the place of training. There are some skills that are already inbuilt, which you need to work on and improve on to become better. To do this, you have to learn some of the skills and also equip yourself with the right strategies to put up in the face of the dispute. And when you do this, you begin to garner experience over time, and this will lead to having career success in dispute resolution. Rome was not built in a day. I myself speaking, it had to take continuous practice to get to this point. So we're going to look at the skills and the strategies as we move forward. Please, the next slide. All right, now we'll be looking at the skills. For you to function effectively in the field of dispute resolution, there are some skills you need to equip yourself with. First of all, we'll be talking about communication. Please, can you move to the next slide? So I'll quit wasting much of our time. Now, communication. Most of us feel communication just ends when you speak and when you pass across a message. Now, communication is established when you speak, the sender passes the message to the receiver. The receiver acknowledges that message, understands the message, and sends the feedback. Now, for this to happen, you need to also listen. Communication does not end only at the point of speaking. Communication also entails active listening. And I also want us to know that in communication, you can communicate verbally and non-verbally. For verbal communication, we have through what you say, what you speak, which most of us are aware of. Now, what about non-verbal? Most people communicate through their body language. Some smile, some give a nod, some could touch, and so many other things, which are also forms of communication. Now, as a good ADR specialist, and to survive in the field of ADR, you need to understand and appreciate non-verbal communication. Because some disputants could pass across a feedback through non-verbal communication. And when you fail to understand that feedback that is being sent, it becomes a problem. So in communication, you have to understand everything in its entirety. The non-verbal, the verbal, learning to listen, to understand people. Because in the place of communication, especially when you listen, you get to hear and receive some feedback of what might actually be the root cause of a dispute. Now let's move to negotiation. Negotiation is the art of communicating with another for the purpose of reaching an understanding, presumably beneficial to both parties. Now, negotiation is a do and a very essential skill to have. Parties coming to the table need you as the ADR specialist to help them negotiate. A mediator is a negotiator. A conciliator is a negotiator. An arbitrator is also a negotiator. Whatever ADR mechanism you decide to apply, you need the skill of negotiation to help parties understand and reach a purpose which will be beneficial to both of them. Parties will always need to shift to make a compromise from one point to the other. Let's look at the next slide. Emotional intelligence. This is another skill that is needed. The ability to understand, use and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, to communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. As an ADR specialist, you need emotional intelligence. Now, parties are also looking at your demeanor, your composure, as they are expecting you to help them effectively resolve that dispute. You should be able to manage your own emotions. You should be able to channel them in positive ways. When you're able to manage your emotions, if you notice you're getting angry as a result of what is happening, you should be able to call a break. You should be able to relieve stress by knowing when to crack a joke, knowing when to rephrase questions. This would help you effectively as an ADR specialist. Now let's kindly go to the next slide. Personality type. You also need to understand when and how a person behaves. Now, as humans, we know we have the choleric, we know how we have the sanguine, the melancholic, the phlegmatic. And it is possible for a human to exhibit all four types of this personality. As an ADR specialist, even if you're meeting someone for the very first time, you should be able to say, this person is a choleric, part is sanguine, and part is demeanor. From the demeanor of a disputant, you should be able to tell what type of personality that person has. And this will help you in dealing effectively with them. When you know a dominant person, you know how to handle a dominant person. When you meet an interactive person, you know that person likes to be engaged in discussions. When you meet a melancholic or a phlegmatic, you know how to handle each and every one of these personality types. It will help and go a long way as a skill because it will give you an edge over the dispute you are sitting before, trying to help resolve their dispute. Now, another thing is impartiality. The next slide, please. Impartiality is treating all parties, rivals or disputants, equal. This is a skill. And this is why we tell parties, make sure this is why we tell ADR specialists, either the mediator or the conciliator or the arbitrator, or whatever ADR mechanism happens to be, make sure you are not involved in resolving. If you have an interest in the dispute or you have a relationship with any of the disputants, inform the other party. If he is resolved or has a resolve that you should go ahead with resolving that dispute, why not? Go ahead. But if he's not comfortable with it, please try as much as possible not to. Because when you move in as being partial. So as an ADR specialist, you need to be impartial as much as possible. Be fair to both parties in resolving that dispute. Now, the next slide, please. You also need the skill of empathy. You have to identify who you're dealing with and understand their feelings and emotional state. If the person is in mourning, if the person is sad, if the person is happy, whatever it is, you should be able to identify and understand and know how to go ahead with such a person. You can't bring someone who is mourning to resolve a dispute about his house rent. At that point in time, the person is not in the right frame of mind. You should be able to understand this. You cannot bring someone who is quarrelsome and not understand or identify the person's feelings and thoughts. As an ADR specialist, these are skills you need to have at the tip of your fingers. The next slide, please. Now, the next thing we'll be talking about is patience. This is one skill too many that most ADR specialists do not have. Most times, these people are very difficult persons, but you need patience to deal with them. You cannot, as an ADR specialist, try to resolve a dispute between parties, one of which is a very hot-tempered person, and you're trying to tell the person to calm down. The person is losing his temper, and you're trying to lose your own temper. It is wrong. As a skill, you need to learn patience. If you feel it's not convenient at that point in time, give them some time. Take a break. Place the parties in various rooms, different rooms for them to cool off, and then bring them back. You need patience to effectively help parties reach a win-win situation. Now, the next slide, please. We're going to be looking at the strategies. We've looked at the skills. These are just some, not all. We have looked at some of the skills you need to equip yourself. In the place of training, you also need to know more about the various types of ADR mechanisms and the peculiarities of the case, because there are some cases that will be better resolved through mediation, and some through conciliation, and some through arbitration. So these things are things you need to know. Now let us look at the strategies. Now, we know that strategy is a plan of action. A plan of action you apply to help you accomplish or reach a specific goal. Now, to effectively resolve a dispute, as an ADR specialist, you need to have a strategy in place. This will help you and act as a guide. It will see you through navigating that process and help you assist the parties in reaching a resolution. Now, some of the strategies you need to apply are the positional strategy or competitive strategy and the principled strategy. Now, for the positional strategy or competitive, you realize that parties are in a competition. Mr. A wants it done this way, Mr. B wants it done this way. And you, as the ADR specialist, you have noticed that competitiveness. You now decide to use their competition to help them arrive or achieve an amicable settlement of their dispute. Or you can decide to apply the collaborative or principles, bringing both parties to work hand in hand, to work together to see that the dispute is resolved. Now, whatever strategy you decide to use, just know that you can decide to start with collaborative and end with competitive, or you can decide to start with competitive and end with collaborative, whichever works for you. But what is necessary is that you need to have a strategy. You need to have a strategy to work with. Now, the positions to take to help your strategy as an ADR specialist. First of all, compromise. You should be able to help parties reach a compromise. Know when to tell parties to bend. A bending to the will of B, B bending to the will of A. Just to see to it that the dispute is resolved. You should also be able to know when to accommodate parties, when to accommodate some of their resolutions, some of their opinions. You should know when to tell them to collaborate, to work together. You should know when to introduce constructive criticism. Now, most of us are good at criticizing, but we don't know how to do it constructively. As an ADR specialist, you need to know how to do constructive criticism. Criticize, but do that constructively without bringing down the demeanor of either party. Offer guidance, not solutions. Help them. Let parties reach solutions themselves. Start with a compliment. Do not jump into conclusions. Define the acceptable behavior. That is another good strategy. You need to tell parties what you expect of them during the course of the process of resolving a dispute. You also need to know how to choose a good location, a location where parties will come to and not feel they would be disadvantaged. This would help whatever strategy you decide to put up. There are also so many other strategies that you can decide to apply. Now, in conclusion, I would like to say that for you to have a name and carve a niche for yourself in dispute resolution, you need to embark on training. You need to study and effectively practice all you have learned as disputes arise always in our day-to-day activities. And over time, when you put this into practice, ADR becomes a way of life for you. In school, that position you're holding, the disputes that arise, you need ADR to settle. At your work, right now, it's even becoming a requirement in some workplaces that you need to be trained on ADR for you to function well. Because when disputes arise, it's expected you should be able to work hand in hand to see to it that is resolved. It is not enough to just be trained. You need to study. you need to try and practice it in your day-to-day living. And right now, I would want to suggest a very interesting book for the purpose of reading to help each and every one of us in the course of our ADR work. Now, there is a book called Getting to Yes. Getting to Yes, Negotiating Without Giving In by Professor Isha, Professor Panton, and Professor Ray. It's a very interesting read, and it would help us in our work and in enhancing our skills, and seeing to it that you have career success in ADR and in arbitration. At this point, we've come to the end of our talk. I would like to say thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have been impacted. I hope you would, from this point forward, take ADR as a way of life. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, I would like to thank Chiugo for gracing us with this very wonderful talk. If any of us that have really done the ADR program that Chiugo took us the class in, we know that this is an almost 2 or 3 hours class that she has reduced into a very succinct and well presented less than 45 minutes talk. I would like to thank you very much for helping us with that. As I continue to speak, please, if you have any question, please, you can send it to me privately or just raise your hand. There's a button if you are using an Android phone. If there's at the end of, there's a 3 button I think at the extreme right where you press and you can raise your hand. So if you have any question there, just click on that so that you can raise your hand, and then our live we'll know that you have a question, and I'll call you to ask your question. I'm still thanking Chiugo for the amazing work that she has done. Please, she mentioned 2 books. We'll make the name and the writers of the books available to you guys on our individual platforms. That's on our website, on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'll also make it available for those of us that are members of our several WhatsApp messages. We'll make those. We are not making the books available. We are just making the names and the authors so that you can go and look for them and then read them. I must tell you that those books, I think I've read one of them, and they help you. Apart from generally helping you as a professional ADR specialist, it also helps you as a human being to be able to relate to people more. So I would enjoy that you read those books and make sure that you avail yourself the informations that are contained there. Then we'll also make the slides that she sends to us. We'll try and make it available. That will be on our website and on our WhatsApp groups. I've not seen anybody intimate that they have questions. So no, I've not. Please, if you have questions, I really need you to raise your hand now, or you can just unmute yourself and then tell us your name, and then we'll know. Okay, I think Solomon Oluwasegun has a question. So, sir, you can ask your question now.
All right, very well then. Thank you very much to our speaker. We are so great. I am very grateful for being a part of this session, and to the organizers. Once again, I say a very big thank you. Very quickly, I'd like to ask, how would you approach a matter in a situation where the party is not willing to show up for an alternative resolution, like outside litigation? What's possible approach do you think, or how do you approach this matter? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your question. Now, I'd say the reason most parties are not forthcoming to alternative dispute resolution sessions is because they do not understand or appreciate the importance of alternative dispute resolution, that is settlement out of court. Now, to go about this, you need to sit that person down, if possible, schedule a meeting, informing the person that you're not coming because you want to settle that dispute forthwith. You just want to have a talk with the person on ADR. Now, throw more light, enlighten the person on ADR, the benefits. You realize that it outweighs litigation, which most parties are not aware. They feel because they know one very big man or one very big lawyer, they should go ahead and take that matter to court. But when the myth of ADR is demystified to such a person, you realize that willingly that person would subject himself to a session for a dispute to be resolved through ADR. So that would be my best option to you. Most parties, especially in Nigeria, we are yet to accept, we're yet to acknowledge that ADR has come to stay and that its benefits outweighs that of litigation. So please try and schedule a meeting, enlighten the person, and I believe after that enlightenment, the person will come to the terms of the importance of sitting down for such a session and will go ahead with the resolution of such a dispute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. One more question.
Okay.
Can I go on?
Yes, go on.
Yes, go on.
All right. When an arbitrator or an arbitrary panel decides or awards a decision, is it binding on both parties? And what happens if a party violates or it does not honor the decision?
All right. When a decision is reached, it's binding on both. Before the matter came for arbitration, both parties have agreed to the fact that it has to come for arbitration. So whatever decision arises from it, that's what's the name? That's the party ought to acknowledge. Now, in the event that a party decides to go against the decision of the arbitral tribunal, the party who is still aware or who has decided to go by that decision can approach the court to see to it that the award is enforced. Now, if you do more of, in the course of our training with students, we enlighten them more on what happens. So once the fact that the arbitral tribunal, the arbitral panel rather, is disbanded does not mean that when a party decides to do away with the decision, that it will just be taken like no. The courts are there to see to the enforcement of such decisions. So when that party goes against it, the other party who the decision has been given in his favor would approach the court to see to it that that decision is enforced.
Okay, does anybody, thank you very much, Chiugo. Does anybody have?
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Is that all, Mr. Solomon?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
that was very nice.
Okay, just before Mr. Chibese comes up, I would like to say that some of the questions that we asked, they are very, Mr. Solomon asked, very, very important questions. And if you remember, as she was speaking, she told us about the fact that we are all naturally ADR specialists. So we do ADR processes naturally on our own without learning anything. But that if we want to have more knowledge, that we should equip ourselves with conferences like this and go into workshops about ADR, as well as joining institutes. I am a member of ICMC. The president, Chibese, is a member of ICMC. And then our speaker today is also a member of ICMC. So I feel like if you want to get more, or you want to have more knowledge of ADR, you should equip yourself with some of these institutions that provide education on ADR processes generally. So let's make sure that even if you are not a chartered mediator, arbitrator, conciliator, any of them, you can start now, most especially when you are in university, you can start now to join some of these institutes. We are members of ICMC, and the education they give us on ADR is what prompted us, or what has prompted us to have conferences like this, because we know the importance of giving people information on ADR processes. Chibese, sorry, but there's Mr. Boniface Ude that is raising his hand, that has a question. So, sir, you can ask your question now, so that we will continue.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It's me, Weke Fabian, not Boniface.
Oh, okay.
I'm using Sir Boniface. I'm sorry, I'm using Sir Boniface I'm having network issues, so I'm using his phone for this conference.
No problem.
First of all, I want to thank our guest speaker for this wonderful lecture, although I came late. But I have this question that been burning in my mind. I don't know if, because they say litigation might soon phase out, or will soon phase out. I think the litigation be used when it comes to human rights matters. Will litigation be used when we are talking about criminal matters and human rights and criminal matters? That's my question, sir.
Sorry, please, can you come again? Because my network is fluctuating, so I didn't quite hear your question.
Okay, I want to know if ADR can be litigation, it can be used in human rights matters.
First of all, it cannot be used with respect to human rights matters. I know I said litigation would fizzle out pretty soon, but I didn't say for some matters it won't be applicable. The truth is that as it stands, there are some disputes that are peculiar to being settled or resolved through litigation, like issues concerning elections, issues concerning human rights. Partly criminal matters are, right now as it stands, ADR is gradually creeping in to resolve criminal matters. And that's why we are having plea bargains as one of the options for resolving criminal matters. So ADR cannot be applied to the matter you talked about because of its peculiarity. But there are some matters, I know I mentioned that most of these ADR mechanisms are peculiar to resolving particular disputes, not all disputes. So what I would say is, if you want to know more about this, I believe I've been able to answer your question. But if you want to know more, we'll be having a training forthcoming.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So try and avail yourself to be at one of the centers. We will shed more light on each and every of these, because due to time constraint, I just had to merge all of this. But in the course of the training, we'll do an explosive class on each and every one of these. And you then understand more and more. But you know, ADR cannot be applied to human rights matters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chiugo. Just in a little addition to what she has said, in America now, they have something called restorative justice. So that is them applying ADR to criminal cases. But in that regard, what they do is that they take the victims of the crime or the offense, and then they take them to the perpetrators of those offense. And then what they do is to try to make them talk to each other. So one will forgive the other, and the other will be able to know that, okay, I've gotten forgiveness from the person. But this is aside the normal legal or litigation, criminal litigation that they will go through. They will still go to prison. But what they are doing now is to restore the relationship between those two people. So that is another way ADR is creeping into criminal matters. But in this regard, they will first of all go to court, and court to sentence the person. Then they would find a way to now bring those two parties in what they call restorative justice. Now I'd like to hand over to the president of Legal Ideas Forum to give us his closing remarks, and then also remind us of our last lectures that we'll have by 6 in the evening. Mr. Chibeso, you can come up now.
Thank you so much, Ebuka, for your kind efforts. And I sincerely appreciate our guest speaker, Mr. Chiugo. Thank you so much for a wonderful session that I've had with you. I sincerely appreciate your contributions to the body of ADR generally in Nigeria and beyond. And we are doing this event in collaboration with Negotiation Powerhouse, of which our speaker today is the course director for the Negotiation Powerhouse. And I'm very certain that most of us are very willing to learn more about ADR. And doing this will take much more than just 1 hour on Zoom. It will take much more than the 45 minutes that have been slated for this event. It will involve having to sit at a very extended session, an organized training that is particular about ADR. And there is an upcoming training on ADR, which is being handled by the Negotiation Powerhouse. So I'll give Barrister Chiugo an opportunity to speak on it, to give us a brief information on the upcoming ADR training, so that those who are within the South and the Southeast, who are willing to learn more about ADR, who are really interested in getting more knowledge about ADR, and who want to be certified for being an ADR specialist, would take advantage of it. So I'll call on Barrister Chiugo to speak briefly on it before we call it a day. We sincerely appreciate everybody that we've seen here, from Dr. Remo. I think I can see Dr. Remo. He was here with us yesterday, and the rest of other persons who were with us here yesterday that have also turned out for today's session. We sincerely appreciate your presence. And I would have loved to hear feedbacks from us, would have loved to hear our voices, Barrister Chimdi Ebube and the rest. But due to time constraint, and then so that we'll carry on with the rest of the day, would want to be joined the curtain. So, but before then, I would call on Barrister Chiugo to give us a brief rundown on the upcoming ADR training. Barrister Chiugo, you have the floor now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Negotiation Powerhouse is an ADR firm that is actively involved in alternative dispute resolution, and we also embark on trainings of undergraduates and professionals from all spheres of life, preaching the gospel of ADR to each and every one of them. Now we're partnering with ICMC, the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators of Nigeria, on training students as well as individuals from other spheres of life on ADR. Now, for this year, we'll be going to the Southeast and the South-South, and we have our training flyers, which will be made available at various platforms or on various platforms. We actually have a divide of the training in 2 parts. We have the first part of the training and the second part. For the first part, you'll be taught ADR mechanism, personality types, communication skills, negotiation, conflict analysis, and a host of other topics. Would also have life scenarios that you'll be asked to discuss. And for the part 2, you'll be taught the practice and procedure of the multi-door courthouse, arbitration, conciliation, and so many other courses. And finally, an exam will be taken, which will be marked by the exam body of ICMC. Now, at the end of the training and the examination, successful candidates would be invited by ICMC for their induction at the International Conference Center in Abuja towards December of this year. And there you'll be conferred with the title Associate Member of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators. So if you're able to partake in this training, you come face to face with members of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators. You also come face to face with members and my colleagues and Negotiation Powerhouse. And we'll be sharing with you our wealth of experience and knowledge. And you'll be privileged to meet ADR himself, as I call him, Dr. Ben Odo, who is the lead consultant at Negotiation Powerhouse. So I want to encourage you to avail yourself, try as much as possible to partake in the training this year. And trust me, you would really thank me later for it. Now, the sum for the training is 75,000 naira. 75,000 naira for the 2 parts of the training. You can pay in installments of 35,000 for the first part and 40,000 for the second part. So whichever way you choose to, would really love for you to partake in this training. Thank you so much, Chibueze. Thank you, LIFIN. Thank you, Ebuka, and God bless each and every one of you.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me. We just got the flyer. So this is how the flyer looks. We'll make sure that we send, I will have put it on when she was speaking, but we'll make sure that we send it to every person that attended today's program. Another thing that we'll make sure that we'll do is we'll get the video part, because we are recording this event. So we'll get the video part of her information to us about the program, and then we'll send it to each and every one of us, so that we'll make sure that we have done our own part. But I also like to emphasize the importance of this, not only for you as a person, but for you as a professional. As a professional, you once you have this, it will open up your field where you can actually work as an ADR specialist. So this is what we'll send to you generally, so that you'll be able to make your decision. But if it was left for me, and I know I'm speaking for Chibueze, the president, and Mrs. Chiugo, when I tell you that if it was left to us, we'll advise strongly that you make sure that you try this out. If you are in, for the places where, or the centers where, if you are close to the centers where these events will be held. I would like to thank everybody that made themselves available to this event. The president has thanked a lot of people, but I also like to thank Dr. Remo for coming up. I don't know if he's still around, but I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank every other person. I don't know a lot of you by name, but I'm sure that we have been able to get you very informed about ADR. So I would like to end the meeting now by thanking everybody. Thank you all for coming and have a wonderful day. Let us all remember that we are having this meeting again. We have another speaker by 6 p.m. So please make sure that you make yourself available for the last event of the event around 6 will be the last event of the year until we have another ADR program. So we thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you.
Ebuka, I'll send to you.
Yeah, yes, sir. I would. I'm using a laptop. I'm using my laptop, so I will try to copy your message, your number before I end the call. That's actually why I've not ended the call.